Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Men of Warrior 22 show. I'm your host, Alex Bonilla. Mm, that's some good coffee. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted something and finally got it, and somehow you still couldn't enjoy it? Maybe it was the job you worked years to earn. Maybe it was finally having a quiet home after years of chaos. Maybe it was someone who actually showed up, communicated, and treated you with respect. I want you to think about that. Have you ever wanted something and finally got it, and somehow you still couldn't enjoy it? Instead of feeling relieved, you found yourself waiting for something to go wrong. Whether it's you started wondering, what's the catch? When are they going to change? Or this almost feels too easy. Have you ever caught yourself doing that? I think that many of us feel that way, right? And I don't think it's because we're negative people. I think many of us have spent so much of our time surviving uncertainty that certainty feels unfamiliar. We've learned how to navigate the chaos. We've become experts at reading a room, anticipating the disappointment. We've become experts at preparing for the worst, but no one really taught us how to simply receive the peace. So tonight, it's not about blaming your past. It isn't about blaming your parents. It isn't about blaming the ex. Tonight is about understanding why healing can sometimes feel uncomfortable and why that's completely different from it being wrong. So, once again, welcome to the Men of Warrior 22 show. I am Alex Bonilla, and I'm glad that you're here. D, welcome. Welcome. Nice shirt. Thank you. I try, you know, from the MW22 shop. Anyone that's joining us, please uh, let me know where you are tuning in from. And in the comment sections, you can highlight, share it to your friends. Let's keep this going. Waxahachie representing. So I want you to answer this honestly. Have you ever walked away from someone who treated you well? Have you ever walked away from someone who treated you well? I want you to answer that honestly. Just type yes. Just type yes if you've ever walked away from someone who treated you well. No explanation needed, just a yes. See people representing from Arizona, welcome. Angela, welcome. Kiki, what's up? Representing NOLA. Mike, San Antonio. We got Lufkin. Welcome, welcome. So, before everyone else tuned in, The first thing that I asked was, have you ever wanted something and when you finally got it, you somehow felt like you couldn't enjoy it because you were maybe waiting for something to go wrong, right? And and so I want you to think about those things. I want you to think back for a moment. What did love look like in your house growing up? Was it calm? Was it loud? Did people did people apologize? Or did everyone pretend nothing happened? Um, were your feelings welcomed or were they pushed aside? Did anyone care? And here's the reason why I asked this, because as kids, you don't get to choose what's normal. You simply adapt to whatever environment you're raised in, right? We see that all the time. And the longer you adapt to something, the more familiar it's going to become. But as we know, familiar doesn't always mean healthy. Imagine growing up, imagine growing up next to a train track. And at first, every time a train comes by, it's going to startle you. It's going to scare you every time the train comes through. And after a while, you barely notice it. For some of us, like myself, that's what life was like growing up in New York. Growing up in the city, it's constant noise. Doesn't matter whether it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the morning. There's still honking horns. There's still noise going on. And, I never really paid attention to it until I left New York and I enjoyed the calm. And now when I go visit, it's chaos to me. It's too much noise. I have to step away. Danielle, you got conditioned. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens. And and our emotional lives works the same way, right? Sometimes we've lived around chaos for so long that we stop recognizing it. We mistake constant tension for passion. You mistake unpredictability for chemistry, or we mistake that emotional exhaustion for love. Then one day, someone enters your life with consistency, someone who communicates, someone who respects your boundaries, someone who keeps their word. Imagine that. But instead of feeling safe, the like part of us just feels uncomfortable, right? And not because they're doing anything wrong, but because our nervous system is asking, why does this feel so different? Natasha, it's like the scene in My Cousin Vinny when he visits the sticks and sleeps better when the train is. Yes, yes. Listen, I often tell that story. When I first was stationed in Germany, it was so quiet for 3 days I could not sleep. And one day, the German police, the Polizei, was outside the gates. There was an accident, and I could hear the sirens. Slept like a baby. It's just that's how it is. And but here's a thought that I want you to carry tonight. Your nervous system doesn't automatically look for what's healthy. It looks for what's familiar, right? So my question is, what is one thing that you believed was normal that you later realized wasn't healthy at all? I want you to think about that. What's one thing you believed was normal, whether it was in relationships, with a romantic partner, family, friends, just in general? What's one thing you believed was normal that you later realized wasn't healthy at all? So let's talk about something that helped change the way I look at healing. Because for years I thought I was looking for happiness. I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. But the reality was that I wasn't. I was looking for what was familiar, and there was a difference. I think a lot of us say we want peace, but our habits end up telling us a different story. And it's not because we're broken, because we're not, but because our brain is just trying to keep us alive. And an example of that is, imagine your house has a smoke alarm. The purpose of that alarm is simple, right? When there's danger, it's going to go off. Pretty simple, right? That's exactly how your nervous system works. The problem is that when you've lived around the emotional fires long enough, your alarm is going to become very sensitive. And now it starts to go off even when you're just simply burning toast. I want you to think about that for a moment. The danger's gone, but the alarm never got the message. So now any slight thing that feels off, the alarm is going to go off. And it doesn't know the difference between that small thing, a false alarm, or something major. And you're constantly going to be stuck. So, this is the reason why, and I'm very guilty of this. This is the reason why when someone compliments you, you start to question their motives. You know, I'm getting better at it, but I'm terrible. And at one point, I was very bad at receiving compliments. Someone will compliment me and I will say thank you, but it had a question mark at the end, almost like, what do you want? What do you need? Right? When someone can communicate consistently, but you're looking at them like they're being fake. How many of you have done that? How many times has someone who is genuinely nice, but you don't even want to give them the chance? You're like, mm-mm, you just seem fake. I don't trust you. So, someone can genuinely care about you, and part of you still starts looking for reasons to not trust them. And again, it's not because they're unsafe, but because that alarm, that internal alarm is still ringing, is still going off. So, Kiki, too many times. Honest, it happens because when you're constantly living in that survival mode, you're you're just recognizing patterns. We're always looking for patterns and what's familiar. So even when someone nice comes along, it's hard to recognize it sometimes because you're so used to the other stuff. You're so used to getting screwed over that then afterwards you feel even worse, right? Because now you were an asshole to someone who didn't deserve that treatment. But you can't tell the difference sometimes. I've seen this in my own life, whether it was with combat in mental health, in relationships. And to be honest, I've caught myself expecting disappointment from people like way before someone ever gave me a reason to disappoint me. I was already prejudging. And it wasn't because they earned it, but like it was the past. Life taught me to expect that, to expect the disappointment. So that became the norm for me. That became normal. And I wonder how many of us listening tonight are carrying the same thing. So I want everybody to answer. So, how do you tell the difference? Ooh, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So, because it's going to involve some internal healing. It's not about them. Tonight, it's about us, right? We're not pointing the, it's not the blame game. We're not worried about them just yet. First, we're focusing on us, on our peace. Because once we get well with us, once we're good within ourselves, trust me, you'll start recognizing those things. So, how many of you, or have you ever caught yourself saying, it's almost too good to be true? this is too good to be true. Doesn't matter what it is. How many times have you said it's too good to be true? Or you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop? I want you to think about that, because I know I've said that way too many times. Anytime something goes good, like, it doesn't matter whether it's at work, oh, this is going too smooth. It's too good to be true. I'm waiting for something to happen. Waiting, right? Because you think that it's the calm before the storm. So if you ever thought that, yes, see, I see a lot of people saying me, and I'm glad. I'm glad that I'm not alone, but I'm also glad because now you know you're not alone as well, right? And this is something I don't think we talk about enough, right? Because chaos is exhausting. The chaos is exhausting, but it's predictable, and you know what to expect. You know the cycle, you know the arguments, right? You know the apologies. There's the honeymoon phase. You know the disappointments. You know that it's gonna just repeat, right? And as strange as that may sound, there's comfort in knowing what's coming. A lot of us have that mindset, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So you stay in certain relationships, certain patterns, because although it's not ideal for you, although you may have lost yourself, there's that fear of walking away. And it could be a million reasons why, whether it's for the children, whether it's financial, regardless of what it is, but there's that fear. And you stay there because at least you know. You already know how the other person's going to react. You know what's going to happen, and you stay. So I want you guys to try something tonight, right now, if you want, doesn't matter. If you have a notebook next to you, or if you can access the app, the note app on your phone, at some point, I want you to draw a line down the middle. And on the left side, I want you to write the things that make me feel safe. The things that make me feel safe. That's going to be on the left side. And on the right side, I want you to write the things that make me feel alive. Things that make me feel safe, things that make me feel alive. Now, I want you to be honest, because I want you to question whether those two lists are the same. Or have you spent years confusing emotional intensity with emotional intimacy? So later on, write those down. Be honest with yourself. You know, you can lie if you want, that's okay. But at some point, you're going to have to be brutally honest with yourself. So here's another question I have for you. If someone loved you, if someone loved you exactly the way you've always said you wanted to be loved, would you know how to receive it at this very moment? Would you know how to receive it? Or would you spend some time looking for reasons to push it away? And I want you to sit with that for a second. If someone loved you exactly how you've always wanted to be loved at this moment in your life, are you in a place where you would know how to receive it, or would you look for reasons to push it away? Danielle, you stay because sometimes that was your one that you thought you would never get. And no, always wanted, but yet it wasn't what you expected, but the hope of it getting better. Yes. And we talked about that last week. We discussed that last week. And actually, throughout the month, we've been talking about that. You know, it's the, seeing people for their potential instead of recognizing for what it is, right? Potential is great. You can see the potential in people, and you can be with someone because you see the potential. They're going to be something great. But when they're showing you patterns of something else, of that inconsistency, when you are losing yourself, where you are dimming your light, those things, you have to recognize it for what it is, not for the potential. And I think that that's important. So this week, when you feel yourself becoming suspicious of peace, don't react immediately. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, like, hey, is this person giving me a reason not to trust them? Or is my past answering for me? Is that person giving me a reason not to trust them? Or am I using my past? Is that all coming forward and just answering for me? Something I want you guys to think about. And Danielle, I think that that was a good, I agree. I think that that is a reason why most of us often stay in certain relationships, you know, and again, there's plenty of other reasons why sometimes people don't leave. And it's easy, like we discussed last week, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, and it's easy for people from the outside to see it and tell you. But when you're in it, it's a whole different ballgame. And sometimes people never get their truth. That's true. Sometimes people never get to their true potential. I agree, and I think that when, at least this is my belief, when you don't reach your true potential, oftentimes it's because you're distracted, you're chasing the wrong thing, right? You're not aligned with yourself. You know, it's, you have to know what your strengths are. You have to heal. And that's the only way you're going to reach your true potential is that self-love, that self-care. You know, the true potential doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, like, oh my God, this guy's going to be an astronaut. So, but that is true though. Some people never get to their true potential. Michelle, I give them a chance until they give me a reason not to trust them any longer. Okay. So when you, when they break that trust or when you give them that chance, do you just walk away? Do you have that conversation with them or you just cut ties? Misty, to be loved the way I've always wanted, I would keep expecting them to see my flaws and change their mind. I keep expecting them to see what I perceive as not good enough. See, that's a tough one, right? Because we are our biggest critic. How many of us stand in front of the mirror and we're like, I'm getting fat, I'm getting skinny, I'm not pretty enough, I don't look good. Oh, I'm getting grades, I'm doing this. Like we critique the hell out of ourselves. And that is important. But this goes back to also that self love part. And I agree. I agree. When you find someone who will love you truly how you want to be loved, doesn't matter. What you see as flaws, those are the parts that person's going to love first. Those are the parts that person's going to give you that most attention to, so you can see that it's not a flaw, right? That's to be loved how you've always wanted to be loved. Like, what does that even look like? Natasha, the past, though, doesn't have any bearing on someone's actions, inaction, or consistency. It's more important to look at. Michelle, it depends on what happened. I try to talk to them about it to get their perspective or reasoning behind their actions. I like that. I like that. So go back to Natasha's comment. The past has no bearing on, doesn't have any bearing on someone's actions. Um, it doesn't. but it does, right? Because we're all playing the game of life, and we're all trying to heal, and we're all trying to get through this. And there is a point where I think that you want this person to understand everything you're going through and the reasoning in your life and your decisions and the reason why you do what you do. They're also going through something, and it may not be how you were raised. We come from different walks of life, so it's understanding each other, and that's where the communication and all that comes in, right? It doesn't excuse their actions, but it explains a lot. And at that point is where you guys have to determine whether whatever that action was is something you guys can work through. And maybe it is. Maybe it's something that they can break. It was a one time, this is what happened. I didn't mean to yell. I didn't mean to react this way. Cool. All right. And they change that. But if they keep repeating it, then that's different. So, Danielle, I'll have a conversation, but if I'm sorry is followed by no change, then I'm done. Exactly. After that, it's just a choice, right? If someone just apologizes after that, it's all it is. It's just a choice if they keep repeating it. And then they come back and they're like, I'm sorry. So, replying to Natasha, yes. You can catch yourself and say, no, those aren't flaws. They're badges of honor for the life you lived. Yes. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, the things that we see as flaws, those are badges of honor. You wear them. I don't care what it is. And I know that sounds ridiculous, right? I don't care if it's stretch marks. You have stretch marks, listen. Stretch marks tells you a story, right? They didn't just happen, right? Either you were small, got big, got small, had a baby, something. There were certain things in your life. Those are badges of honor. That's life. And a real man is going to recognize that and wouldn't point those out. Same for the opposite. Same being said about a guy losing hair or other stuff happening in his life. Like, it's life. So when you are loved how you've always wanted to be loved, those aren't flaws, right? Those make hell of a stories. Angela, I'm sorry, with no change or empty words. That's it. Period. There is like period. Those are empty words when they keep repeating. I'm sorry, it doesn't solve everything. No, it doesn't. I will accept the apology, but how are we gonna fix this? How are we gonna fix this? So when we come back, I want to talk about something that I think almost everyone has done, right? How we accidentally, inadvertently sabotage the very things maybe we've always wanted or we pray for. Because healthy sometimes feels more uncomfortable than the chaos. So don't go anywhere. We're going to pay the bills. What you wear says something about who you are. At Men of Warrior 22, we don't just create apparel, we represent resilience, purpose, and the decision to keep moving forward. Wear the mindset, live the mission. Shop the Men of Warrior 22 collection today at mw22.org/shop. Combat Coffee Company, veteran owned, mission driven, built for those who never quit. Whether you're starting your day or chasing your next goal, Combat Coffee Company keeps you fueled for the mission ahead. Fuel for the mission, one cup at a time. If you've ever felt like you're surviving instead of living, this book is for you. The War Inside isn't about pretending life is easy. It's about understanding the battles we fight in our own minds and finding a way forward. If you're ready to stop living in survival mode and start reclaiming your life, pick up your copy today. The War Inside, available now on Amazon and mw22.org. Welcome back, everyone. Apologies if there was some feedback there. Um, I was over here messing with the mic. But before the break, we talked about something that hits close to home, right? Sometimes we don't sabotage healthy relationships because we don't want love. We sabotage them because the healthy feels unfamiliar. So now I want to flip this conversation. We've talked about what unhealthy looks like. And I think that we grasp that, right? We know what unhealthy looks like. So let's talk about what healthy actually looks like or what it should look like. Because I think that social media has done us a huge disservice. You know, we make love seem so dramatic, right? We make relationships look like constant passion, this excitement. It's that constant butterflies. Like I have to constantly be moved, be wild, right? How many times have you seen that on social media, in movies, uh, these reality shows? Everything has to be just constantly exciting. But sometimes it just creates peace. That's it. Healthy relationships doesn't always have to create butterflies. Sometimes it just creates peace. And I want you to think about that. Like to be around someone who just brings you peace. Kind of just doesn't matter what's going on in the chaos. You just feel a sense of like you breathe easier. Michelle, yes, social media is killing what we believe is real. No, absolutely. Absolutely. There's two extremes that you see on social media nowadays. Honestly, it's either this made up version of what love should be. You know, it's swept her off her feet. We're constantly on the go. You know, we're never home. We're doing this. And then there's the game of options. There's no happy middle anymore, right? Whatever happened to that 90s R&B type of love? Whatever happened to the getting to know someone to like genuinely, not so much as winning someone over, but just putting that time in, enjoying that person, just sitting with it and talking. Doesn't always have to be on the fly, you know. So let's talk about the healthy because love isn't wondering where you stand. Love isn't checking your phone every 5 minutes. Love isn't chasing someone who's emotionally unavailable. It isn't convincing someone to choose you. And it isn't changing who you are just to keep someone around. That's emotional exhaustion, not love. It's a curated version of love, yes. Kiki, peace is on the top of my prayer list. Listen, it's possible. It's there. It's there if you want it. You know, healthy love lets you breathe. It lets you breathe. So, so let's talk about, we spend a lot of time talking about the red flags, right? And we see them all the time, the red flags, and we've forgotten what green flags actually look like. So let's talk about these green flags. So, green flag number one, they do what they say they're going to do. Go figure. They do and say what they're going to do. Seems pretty simple, right? They do and say, not sometimes, consistently, right? Consistency isn't boring. It builds trust. It builds trust. How many of us grew up thinking that consistency was too good to be true, right? Because nowadays, It's hard to find consistency with people for many reasons. There's a million reasons why it's hard to be consistent or to find consistency with people who is like genuinely. And there's a million reasons. And sometimes, listen, myself, as much as I tried, there are so many things that happen in my life. And those who know me very well know that I'm like Dory, like everything is squirrel. And I tend to forget. I mean well, but I will forget to, oh man, I was going to call this person later. But then I got distracted with this. And then I did that. And then I did this. That by the time I notice, I feel like crap because it's already late. And that happens. And it's no excuse because I know that I should develop a system. But again, those who know me know that I'll take that system and do the same thing with it. So again, work in progress. But having someone who is consistent, because here's the thing with consistency with me as well, because there's a flip side to that. I am a creature of habit. So if I get the good mornings every morning and then I don't get it, one time I'll be like, all right, cool. But if those things start to change and you switch up on me, my brain will automatically react to that change up. And sometimes that messes with me. And then I kind of like pull back a little bit. So consistency is big. But so green flag number one is that they do and say what they're going to do. Natasha, because there are so many distractions in today's world, unlimited options and opportunities. Yeah. Green flag number two. You don't have to guess how they feel. Healthy communication is going to remove that confusion, right? When you have two people who can sit and talk about stuff, like that makes a world of a difference because if you're constantly trying to decode text messages, wondering if the other person's upset or if they're pulling away, that's emotional work that you were never meant to carry. So, not having to guess how they feel is a green flag. Green flag number three, you do not lose yourself. You don't lose yourself. One of the biggest signs of healing is that you stop shrinking yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. And we already said that we're done doing that. We're done playing small. We're done shrinking ourselves, right? If they can't handle you, listen, that's a them problem. So a green flag is being with someone or being around someone who doesn't make you feel like you're losing yourself. You you can be you, right? You can be yourself. Healthy people don't ask you to become less of yourself. No, they create the space for you to become more, right? I don't want you to lose yourself. If you're a dork, listen, be that dork, be you. Because even if that person isn't for you, you're going to attract your tribe, right? So it's something to think about. Stop trying to treat it like almost like a job interview. You know how everyone tries to, oh, no, no, I better not act this way. Not yet. I don't want to show this. I want to be this way. Why? Be yourself. Be yourself. Replying to Angela. Yes, and it's hard to find. So if and when you do hold on to it, it's rough out here. Misty, feeling that shift in energy is hard not to pull back from. Sometimes they don't realize that they caused that inconsistency in you. I agree. I agree. So, green flag number four is you can disagree without feeling abandonment. And I want you to think about that. Some of us grew up believing that conflicts means rejection. That I don't want to argue because if I argue, they're going to leave me or they're going to like at some point they're going to leave. They're going to walk out on me. So you spend your life walking on eggshells because you fear being abandoned. Some of us grew up that way, but healthy relationships teach us something different. Conflict isn't the end, it's an opportunity to understand each other. Like, I welcome that. I don't want you to agree with everything that I say. It shouldn't be that way. No. There was a point in time where we used to always believe, opposites attract, right? That yin yang. Again, we come from two different walks of life. When you meet someone who grew up with their values, and you have yours, and you come together, and there's a lot that may be similar, whether this person's family oriented like you, certain things that align, but there's still going to be other things that don't. And when those things create a conflict, it shouldn't lead to abandonment, argument, belittlement, or make the other person shrink themselves down and not communicate. No, it's an opportunity to sit there and grow together and get to know that. I love that. I love to sit with someone and be like, I want to know why, or help me understand. Like, why do you see it this way? So I can understand whether I agree or not. At least want to know why you see it the way you do. And we can agree to disagree. It doesn't have to be the end. So, green flag number 5. And to me, I think this is the biggest one, is you feel emotionally safe. You feel emotionally safe. Not perfect. You don't need to be happy every minute. Safe. Safe enough to be honest. Safe enough to admit that you're struggling. Safe enough to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. How do we fix it? Safe enough to ask for help. And I want everyone watching tonight to answer this honestly. Which of those green flags feel the most unfamiliar to you? Is it the consistency, the communication, conflict without fear, being emotionally safe, or just being accepted exactly as you are? Like, please tell me in the comments. Because for me, all those are equally important, but the one that stands out to me the most, I've got to say, is emotionally safe. And I don't think that this gets said enough. As a man, being emotionally safe is just as important as it is to a woman. You know, for me, as a man, you go through life having to be the strong one, having to be hard all the time. You're wearing this armor and you're carrying this, and it's the same for women. But for myself, it's carrying that and always having to be like just hardcore all the time, that when you come home or when you come to your person, listen, you should feel safe enough to be able to put that armor down, right? You should be able to put that armor down. I should be able to be vulnerable with you. And that is important to me, being emotionally safe, because I promise you that if I am vulnerable with you one day and at some point you take my vulnerability and you bring it up later in an argument, or you throw that back at me, I will never open up again to you because I no longer feel emotionally safe. And if I feel that I'm not emotionally safe, then there will be no communication. There will be no conflict without fear. Because at that point, I'm going to feel like if I open my mouth, this is what's going to happen. If I try to communicate, this is what's going to happen. So when I feel that way, now I no longer feel like I can be accepted as I am. Now there's no trust. Now it's just a ripple effect. So I see a lot of feeling emotionally safe as well, being accepted for who I am. Kim, welcome. Um, Kiki, emotionally safe and not shrinking myself. That's important. Kiki, you got a big personality. Don't shrink yourself for anybody. All right? Stay awesome. Michelle, both men and women should be able to be vulnerable with one another. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, as a man, you listen, it is exhausting. It is like, it is too exhausting to have to be tough all the time. That's why I love being a girl dad. Listen, my daughter humbles me down and my daughter brings me back down. You know, I joke and say, listen, that's the estrogen that I lack. She balances me out. But I can be that way with her. And I don't feel less of a man. I don't feel any other type of way. Nope, I love it. So let's talk about the mirror. You know, we spent the last month talking about choosing healthier relationships, but tonight I want to ask you, are you becoming a healthy person to be in a relationship with? I want you to think about that, right? This is you staring into the mirror and asking, are you becoming a healthy person to be in a relationship with? Would someone want to be in a relationship with you right now? You don't have to answer that. You can if you want to, but this isn't about guilt, right? It's about growth because we spend our whole lives asking for emotionally healthy people while sometimes refusing to become emotionally healthy ourselves. So it's something that I want you to think about. So instead of asking yourself, do they like me? Ask, how do I feel after spending time with them? Do I feel respected? Do I feel calm? Do I feel heard? Do I feel like I can be myself? Or do I leave every conversation replaying it in my head? Because that one thing shifts everything. It moves your attention away from trying to earn someone's approval back to protecting your own peace. It ain't about them. Whatever time you had with them, I don't care if you went out for coffee. When you go back, you ask yourself, hey, how did I feel about it? Not about, I hope they like me. No, screw that. They like you. That's it. Always walk into that like I'm fucking awesome. That's it. Doesn't matter. I'd rather say that I'm awesome, that I'm a big deal, than to beat myself up. Because even if I'm not for them, again, I know I'm someone shot of whiskey. So it's the struggle to think, am I going to be good enough for my person? Will I be able to treat them the way they deserve, or will I push them away? Those are good questions. Those are good things to ask yourself because at least you're asking the right questions. You're asking and you're internalizing, like, how do I make sure that I'm in a good place, that I'm not rejecting that, right? Because you also don't want to bleed onto anyone else. So that's why I asked that question. Like, look at yourself in the mirror. Like, you want someone who's emotionally healthy, but are you working towards being emotionally healthy? Life isn't about finding someone who's healed. I swear, I say this time and time again, you're never going to find someone who's healed, right? Everyone's constantly healing, right? So yes, Kim, it's a constant work in progress. I would be a great person to be in a relationship with as long as I feel peace when they're around and they add to my life, not detract. Yes, that's all most of us, I think, want the same thing. But it becomes a little more than that, right? Because it involves work, because now there's more than one person in the equation. You know what brings you peace. The person may try to love you the best way they can. Now, are you going to reject it because it's not the way you want it? Or are you going to accept that they're trying? that they are loving you, how they know. These are conversations that need to be had. This is communication. You know, one thing that I've learned is that the strongest people that I've met aren't the loudest people. They're the people who no longer need chaos to feel alive, right? They've learned that peace isn't a weakness, that it takes courage, because choosing peace means walking away from everything that once felt familiar. So I want you to ask yourself something tonight, not for me, for you, right? I don't want you to answer it for me. I want you to answer this for yourself. What if the relationship you've been waiting for is waiting for a healthier version of you? I want you to think about that. What if the relationship you've been waiting for is waiting for a healthier version of you? Not perfect, not someone who has it all figured out or like, but just someone who's willing to heal, someone who's willing to grow, who's willing to stop carrying yesterday into tomorrow. It's all about the communication and then see if they learn. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, again, being in mental health, working with veterans, being around families and people in crisis, the one thing that I learned is that pain doesn't automatically make us wiser. A lot of times we like to joke and we say that, you know, oh, these battle scars, you know, they make me smarter, they make me wiser. No, sometimes pain just makes us better at protecting ourselves. That's it. Healing is what makes us wiser. There's a difference between surviving and living. And I want you to think about your own life. Are you living or are you just avoiding getting hurt? Because those aren't the same thing. If every decision you make is based on avoiding disappointment, avoiding rejection, the vulnerability, you're surviving, you're not living. And survival wasn't meant to be your permanent address. I know what survival mode feels like. For many years, it's what kept me alive. It's what probably kept most of you alive. And eventually you realize that the same walls that protect you are also keeping people out. So I want to focus on 3 decisions that I want you to take a look at tonight. 3 decisions. And, you know, sometimes pain just downright hurts. Yeah, sometimes pain is just that. It's pain. You know, I don't want to hear this. God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers and all that. Listen, I didn't sign up for this war. Like, sometimes I don't want to be the strongest soldier. Like, pick somebody else. But there's 3 decisions that I want you guys to focus on. I want you to remember this tonight. Decision number 1, stop chasing confusion. Have that hard conversation. Stop chasing confusion. If someone wants to be in your life, their actions shouldn't leave you constantly guessing. Period. That's it. Can we agree? That's pretty cut and dry, right? Stop chasing confusion. Stop trying to decipher what I think they meant. No, their actions shouldn't have you guessing. Decision number 2, stop apologizing for healthy boundaries. Boundaries don't push healthy people away. They reveal who's uncomfortable with accountability. So stop apologizing for your healthy boundaries. Once you set them, that's it. When people complain, that's because they're uncomfortable with that accountability. So, decision number 3, stop confusing peace with boredom. Peace isn't empty. Peace is what your nervous system feels like when it no longer has to fight every day. And if peace feels uncomfortable, like maybe that's not a reason to run. That's more reason for you to stay, to sit with it. So This week, I want to challenge you with that. I don't want you to focus on finding the right person. I want you to focus on becoming a healthier person. Every day, ask yourself, like, did I respond from peace today or did I react from pain? You don't need to explain yourself to people and all that. No, I mean, listen, by all means, if you have someone that you can sit with and talk to, great. But ask yourself if you responded from peace or from pain. Write it down. It's no judgment. Just be honest with yourself. So, for the last several weeks, we talked about settling because we were lonely, trying to save people instead of loving them, ignoring the red flags. And tonight, we discussed why healthy love can feel uncomfortable. And if you've been here through this entire series and you've been watching this show, the relationship series for the whole month of July, listen, thank you. Thank you, because I hope these conversations have done more than just entertain you. I hope they challenge you. I hope that it helped you see yourself with more honesty and maybe just a little more compassion. And I'll leave you with this. Imagine someone who has lived in darkness for years. When they first step into the sunlight, they can't open their eyes. Their eyes hurt, right? And it's not because the light is dangerous, but it's because they've been in the dark for so long. And healing works the same way. Some peace feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because your life is finally changing. So don't run from that peace. Just because it feels unfamiliar, give yourself some time to grow into it, sit with it. So if tonight's conversation meant something to you, listen, don't let it stop there. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment after we go off air. Tell me one thing you're choosing to leave behind and one thing you're choosing to carry into the next chapter of your life. I love to read them. When we go off, I like to go back and I try to comment back on everyone who I missed. So after this as well, I'm going to shift over to TikTok. I'm going to go live. We can do a little Q&A there. And for anyone who feels that this resonates and may want to do some additional, if you go to mw22.org, I do a one-to-one. And this is no judgment. It's non-clinical. We can sit for an hour. We can talk about this and create a plan to help break out of the survival mode. If you haven't checked out my book, The War Inside, go ahead and check it out. Available on Amazon. But again, all the episodes, if you want to catch some of the prior episodes, they're available on YouTube. So once again, thank you for spending part of your evening with me. Remember that healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were before survival had convinced you that you had to live in fear. We're done doing that. We're done playing small. We're done shrinking ourselves for others, right? So this is about empowering. And this is what this community is all about. And I appreciate each and every one of you who have been here in this journey with me, who continues to help make this grow and pull other people in. Because at the end of the day, this is it. We have each other. We have to take care of each other. But it starts within, right? So take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Don't forget, we're stronger together and no one stands alone. And I ask you to go out and be a warrior for someone else as well. Thank you. I'll see you guys on TikTok. You guys have a great night.